Great. Okay, it looks like we are live. So we'll just give our viewers a few moments to see the notification to join us here for the live stream. Joining us online today is Michael Eldridge, who is our presenter. But again, we'll just wait a few minutes here for our audience to join us. Today's event is part of the Siena Art Institute's ongoing series, StARTers Live. On Tuesdays for the months of April and May, we're focusing on the topic of art and education, with a special focus on fostering creative and critical thinking. And to briefly introduce today's speaker, Michael Eldridge is a painter, photographer, and creativity coach. He is a Fulbright scholar and a fellow of the FRSA and has taught in the UK and in the US. He's a Londoner by birth and has lived in New Zealand, South Africa, and in the US. And his teaching approach is always very lighthearted and playfully challenging. As an artist, he exhibits his work internationally and lectures on the subject of creativity at conferences in the US and Europe. He currently teaches in Italy, where he runs art workshops in the Sibillini Mountains. During the pandemic, he's created online studio workshops, which are principally about the good and the bad times in the life of an artist and what it really means to be creative, including practical and playful tuition on image making and advice on how to get your stuff out there. And he connects with his participants from his studio near Civitanova and in the summer at his mountain retreat. So as I see some people are joining us now here on the broadcast, I'll just mention to our viewers that we very much welcome you to interact with us during the live stream. You can write questions or comments either on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're connecting from, and we can see and respond to those comments during the latter part of today's broadcast. So thank you all so much for joining us. And now we can turn the stage over to Michael, who can give us a glimpse into how he sparks critical and creative thinking in his teaching. Thank you so much for joining us, Michael.
Okay, good evening. Thank you, Lisa, for the introduction. As Lisa said, I live in a place called Moravale in Italy, and my workshops are as much online as they are in reality up in the mountains. So what I intend to do this evening is give you an insight of how creativity has treated me, how people and the remarkable people I've met have informed my life. So for me, life is a punctuation of experiences, and education, being in education, has opened my life to a very, very rich flow of, I don't know, amazing people, amazing activities, and the knowledge that artists are not normal people. And that is a thing to celebrate, because we live in a world which is quite different from normality. And I think, although we suffer the pains of that, our lives are much, much, much more rich than those who live a life of consumers and normality. So this evening I'm going to show you, starting off with the location that we're in now, my workshop in the city, and then taking you off into a little voyage up into the mountains and taking you through how I open up the realm of creativity within people who think that they're not creative. And of course, that's nonsense, because all human beings are. So this is going to be a run through of that, and then it's going to be a run through of all the people that have influenced my life and enriched my life. And then I can take you almost in your imagination, if you like, a visualization into this magical opening that there exists where we can enter the realm of creativity. And it's a thing which you can take away with you, you can follow up with us, but it's something that must enter the lives of all those who wish to live a creative life. So it's for people who are artists, for people who are wanting to be artists, people who are creative, who want to be creative in any form, whether it's painting, sculpture, filmmaking, photography, or even making a marvelous garden, you know, the simplest chair or table or whatever. Creativity is something which takes us into another world, which absorbs all our senses and takes us into a world of wonder. That is creativity. And that's something which I want to accentuate and actually introduce you to this evening, because it's something which has taken my whole life to fully understand. And I think as teachers, with our wisdom, we can shortcut a lot of things for people. We can help them, and it's our duty to share and care for others as much as it is to create for ourselves. So that's an introduction, I think.
It's wonderful.
So,
And we're just looking at some of the images from your various workshops here.
yes, this is up in Cittadella. It's the highest agrotourism in Italy. It's just below Monte Vittorio, which is an extinct volcano. The air is just fantastic up there. There's something quite electric about the whole atmosphere. If you go up there, you can actually walk around and pick little meteorites off the ground, because it's a place magnetically which attracts meteor falls. So that shows you how incredibly powerful it is. It's also the home, it was the home of La Sibilla, who was the seer of Rome. And she had a cave up there, and it was visitable until a German team of archaeologists destroyed the entrance 100 years ago. But inside, the tunnels that exist there point in the constellation of Venus, Venere. So you can imagine it's a very, very rich, wonderful place to be. And
I can imagine.
and beautiful things happen up there. And on Midsummer's Night, for instance, the legend is, tradition is that young men go up there and meet the most beautiful young women who they fall in love with, that they spend the night with. So only to find in the morning that these women have got goat's legs. Everyone's screaming back to their mothers. By which time these young women are all pregnant and they all have babies with goat's legs. So that continues to tradition. So there's all sorts of legends up there about fairies, witches and elves and shamans and magic people. And I do know a white witch myself, who is a friend of mine, who treats me when I have spells put on me. So the old ways still exist up there, and you feel them. And for people who are creative, it adds to the spice of their weekend, this magicness, this nearness of animals, the incredible feeling of the sky and the streams and the water and the magic places where the pagan religions used to and still exist up there. So it's an ideal place to take people for an experience of being together, creating together, and leaving their old selves behind. This is what I want most of all, that people leave their old selves, they come away from the so-called world of normality and they experience the super normality. And it's a very emotional thing to do. So, it's not just a practical weekend of adventure walking, it's also a voyage inside ourselves, and that's most important.
Yes.
We also do,
So,
I must say, in the morning, to start off with, we do Qigong, Tai Chi around the pool. I take people through an exercise and going into the center of the creativity. That they take away with them. And when we have webinars, that I do every 3 weeks with this group, I call them pods, just to make that clear. They are always working pods of 8 people, and these are 8 people. And I'm developing another pod at the moment. By the end of the year, I'll have 3 pods going of 8 people, and going back and forth to the mountains and having workshops here and so forth. So I found that 8 people is the ideal number of people to teach, to be with. It's ideal, I've learned. So.
That's fabulous. Well, here we're looking at the mountains, both above the pool and with the storm. That brings us then into your own work, which often reflects the landscape itself.
Mm-hmm. My work is about, really, I lived 10 years under this mountain, and I go back there, it draws me back. And it's just so impossible to explain the feeling that you get when you're up there. And I do know what it is, actually. It's an absorption with all our senses. Okay? It's just the sight, the smell, the touch, feel, taste. You go into almost like a balance of all your senses, and it opens up, if you like, what I call the realm of creativity, because, okay, I believe that creativity is looking for us 24/7, and when we get into this state of full absorption, that's when creativity gives us the magic of dance, of music, of theatre, of painting, of image making, of all sorts. And it needs us, she needs us, if you will, to actually be a part of the cycle of creativity. And she needs us to make manifest the lovely secret dreams that she shares with us. And of course, our duty is to light the dark. The duty of artists is to light the dark. Because by lighting the dark, we actually thrive as human beings, and we give value to life. And just as we're given creativity and given the beauty of creativity to expand ourselves, to live beyond ourselves, if you will, that we must give that to others, we must share that to others. That's our duty as teachers. So I'm a painter, a photographer, a creativity coach, and a teacher, which I've been for many years of my life. So
I don't know if you might want to say something about the works as we see the materials and dimensions, but you intentionally don't title your works. Is that correct?
quite so. These, the back of the studio here, I have a place where I work big. We can take, when we do it on a shot around, we can show you. But this is something which I intended years ago to do, which was not to title my work. And I've been doing it for the last 18 months now. I just refuse to title my work. And I was telling Lisa earlier that my daughter in England, she asked me why I did this. And I asked her if she wouldn't mind asking her friends if they would just give their feelings and their thoughts about a particular painting. She sent it off to 50 of her friends, and they all came back with completely different ideas of what they felt and what they saw in my paintings. And they all went on to their own, in my paintings, they went into their own adventures. It took them in, it took them further. And I thought, that's just fantastic. It's just what I want. Okay? Because the title work actually limits the person's idea of what it should be, and they think they're trying to actually fit what they think it should be into what they're saying, which is nonsense. So I let people, and poets do this too, make their own voyage into the work and then have their own experience through it. So, that's very important to me, to not title my work. These are
It
watercolors, by
becomes.
the way.
Mm.
These are watercolors. These are liquid watercolors that I discovered a couple of months ago, and I started playing with watercolors. Much to do with the lockdown, by the way. I couldn't get to my art dealers to get art material. And that's when I started working on iPads too. I started working on this digital system of making art, and I really fallen in love with it. So I'm doing watercolors now on iPads, which I wasn't doing a year ago. So I've taken up something really quite new. This is a watercolor, which I think is out there somewhere. But then I have these watercolors photographed, and I have them printed in the city with a guy who's a fantastic printer. He's got a print machine which cost him 50 grand. It's just like fantastic. And I sit next to him, and he produces the work for me in print form. And I sell them as limited editions, by the way. So I keep the original, and I sell the limited editions. This is acrylic. This is a mountain for me, it's the mountains, all the things that are going up there, all the animals. I was always bewitched by the nighttime up there. We lived under a canopy of stars. We used to see the Milky Way every other night and walk around, and it's full of animals creeping around. And the night belongs to these creatures, and it's lovely to be drawn into that magic. So
it sounds like an enchanting place. I think maybe this one that we're looking at, you have perhaps the original with you there. Could just be interesting for the viewers to see. Oh, fantastic. Yes.
It's a tiny little picture. Can you see? It's tiny, tiny, tiny.
Yes.
And he photographed that, and he's printed this up at 39 by 25, or 39 by 35. And the quality of the image is just fantastic. I mean, just incredible.
That's really wonderful.
So to have a printmaker who's your friend and who loves what you're doing and dedicates his own excellence, it's fantastic.
It's a good friend to have, absolutely. Yes.
And all I do is photograph, send it to him by Gmail, and he phones me the next day. He says, "Come on, I've got it ready. Come on." So I sit next to him. So, compared with 15 years ago, you just couldn't do anything like that.
Yes.
So,
well, I think this, yes, absolutely. Well, this image then brings us into the next section of your talk in terms of your influences and inspirations.
Yeah, a couple of nights ago, after talking to Lisa, I thought, crikey, my life's full of all these incredible people. I'm going to start writing them down. I haven't done it ever. And I wrote a list down. I got to 12, and I thought I'd better stop. And then after having done that and sent it to her, I thought of another 12, I thought, goodness me. And then I thought, that's my life. And I've been somehow, almost through serendipity, put into situations that I would never have conceived myself or put myself in. And these people have it's been like a stagecoach, from one to the other. And they've always been there. And I think, most of all, I think if we go to the bottom one, Lisa, I think that if I ever have to share anything with the student first off, he's not alive anymore. I didn't know him. He died in 1927. But his books are fantastic, and Lisa was saying that she was also introduced to that when she was a student. But the thing he says, just wonderful things. For instance, the object isn't to make art, it's to be in that wonderful state which makes art inevitable. Okay. And this is what I do as a teacher. I put people into a wonderful state where they inevitably make art. It just comes out of them. And he says, I paint for the sole purpose of magnifying the privilege of being alive. That to me is wonderful, just wonderful. We are privileged to be alive, for goodness sake. Absolutely. I was looking at the stars last night, and I was trying to search for that beautiful image of Earth from outer space, and I couldn't find it. It's a complete blackness, and there's the planet Earth is that little marble in the middle. And that's us, and we're on this marble, and there are people shouting at each other, people getting cross with each other, people wasting each other's lives, and they don't realize what it is to be this little, tiny little thing floating in the middle of space. So when he says, to glorify what it is to be alive, I think he felt that. He was really richly in love with life. And I think art people are richly in love with life. So that was very, very important to me. Jack, if I could talk about Jack Paulsen now, at the top of the list. Jack, I met when I went to live in San Francisco, and I was printing color in England, and I couldn't find the same process in San Francisco. It hadn't arrived, in fact. And I went to this photo shop, and I said, can you tell me about color printing? I don't even know the name. He says, we just do black and white. He said, but if you go to the Art Institute on Thursday evening, Jack's always there because it's lecture evening, so I went. And I asked at the end of the lecture, which was really boring, is Jack Paulsen in the audience? Yeah, that guy with a Hawaiian shirt down there. And I went down there. And I just introduced myself. And I said something to him which was politically very incorrect, not to English people, but to American. And I won't even say it because it's silly, politically incorrect. But he just laughed, and he said, "Oh, yeah, you're English, gosh, where are you from?" And he said, "What are you doing now?" I said, "Oh, nothing. Well, let's go and have a Chinese meal." Anyway, that was the beginning of a friendship which has lasted all my life. And we're in touch twice a week, and we send each other stuff. And it was he who took me to Pyramid Lake. He was the blood brother of a native American Indian chief, and he's allowed permission onto this reservation to this magic place called Pyramid Lake. Yeah, and we're going to do a little skip around.
Great, it'll be wonderful to have the chance to just see a glimpse into your studio, since it seems like a place that's just absolutely filled with creativity and lots of different types of projects afoot between your watercolors and your acrylic painting and your digital work, and of course the work of your students as well. So we're just adjusting the camera angle here, but just give a moment for, there we go, great. The sound doesn't seem to be coming in. The image is great, but we seem to have lost your sound. But the image certainly looks great. I'm not sure. Yes, it's not muted, but we don't have your sound coming in. How strange. But at least we can see the images that you have up in the studio, which is really great to see. Yes, I'm afraid the sound still isn't coming in. Let's see. But we have your image at least, so how strange. No, it's still not coming in, the sound. It seems to have gone off. That's strange, because it was working fine just a moment ago. But anyways, we can... Yes, it's the sound is still off, but there's always something that comes up with technical difficulties. So let's see. Maybe we'll just can switch back to the view. It seems to still not be coming in with your built-in microphone. So it's no, it's not that it's muted. It just seems to be somehow the microphone has stopped cooperating. But we'll see. But in the meantime, it's really great, though, to see our viewers who have been sharing their comments and questions. So thank you all so much for writing in. I see a lot of people commenting about the beautiful work, the great studio, interpretations of nature. So thank you all for writing in. For example, we have Jackie, who's written in to say, great new studio, and seeing all your new work is very inspiring. And we also have a really lovely comments from Layla, who's saying, I'm sitting here drawing, watching, and listening. Yes, we are privileged to be alive. Indeed, we are. So that's a really great comment from you, Layla. So thank you for sharing that. We also have a comment from Franca Marini, who is one of our faculty members here at the Siena Art Institute, writing great interpretations of nature, very inventive works. And we also have Sandro Angelini saying, nice to hear you again, Michael. There's also a question that's come in from Lily, who's asking about if perhaps the area's magnetic fields affect people's brains or creativity. So that could be interesting to hear more about. So, and we also have a comment here from Miriam, our director, who's just saying, "Love this work, Michael." So a lot of very positive responses coming in. Cleo as well saying it's a privilege to be able to give a look into your studio. Thank you. So thank you all for joining us. I'm afraid that as the sound is still not coming in, it's so strange because at the beginning it was working fine, but now it seems to not be cooperating. So we'll see if we can get Michael back on the line. But in the meantime, I'll mention to our viewers that this event is part of our ongoing series of talks. We hope that you all can join us here again next Tuesday when we'll be continuing this theme of exploring art and education. Oh, I hear a sound in the background, so perhaps that's Michael's microphone.
Oh.
We hear you, yes. We don't see you, but we hear you. All right, we're back. All right. So sorry for the technical difficulties.
Here, can't I? Look.
Oh, okay.
We can bring the painting here.
Okay.
Shall I continue with it? Story?
Yes, sure, yes. Or if you also went into comments, I know you were, you seem to have something to say about the creativity in terms of if the magnetic fields affect people's brains, so that could also be something to comment on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a bit like the coronavirus, I think. It affects people's brains. It's true. We were talking about it earlier, and what actually happens, I find, it's almost like a click when I feel as if I'm evolving into something new, or I'm changing. I feel like a click in my chest, and it's just almost as if I'm, programmed and not really human, It's like an android or something. But I seem to, I don't say suffer experiences, but I take experiences very deeply into myself. And when I meet people who are extraordinary, I really, I don't know, it's almost as though I fall in love with that part of life, and I realize how richly fascinating human beings are and how we lose a lot of opportunity to share the most wonderful things about being alive, in a creative fashion and live like a second-rate life. And that was, as I was saying earlier, our responsibility is to actually transmit that richness to young people, to children, and to allow them to progress in the way we have been. And I must say, I probably wouldn't be like I am if my schooling wasn't so awful. My schooling was really awful, and I suffered so much. I was at a boys' grammar school, and I couldn't stand it. And the art teacher saved me. He gave me a special little place in his studio, and he built a little wall around, and he said, "Michael, just come to me. No one could ever find me." And that man saved me, And for that, I thought, gosh, he's given me something. And I've always wanted to give that very same thing to other people because, life is an invasion of dark things. And I think this ability to see beauty, to take in beauty, to experience it, and then project it out to give life to it is our responsibility. So our brains are affected. Our emotions are the vehicle through which our brains are addressed. But I think, yes, in fact, it is it's almost neuroscience, actually, that we're talking about. The ability to push away thoughts and then this I'm going to come to, I think, in a minute. The actual process we go through, the actual exercises we go through. I'd like to go through that as well. because I don't know how we're doing for time.
We're at just about half an hour here, but I know you got cut off earlier. So if you were wanting to,
Well, I would like to talk about the mental side of it, because I know that life is a tug of war between the thoughts we have and the emotions, the negative emotions we feel. And what I've been taught from various sources is that and what we do in the mornings after we do Tai Chi, everybody goes into a bubble, like an imaginary bubble, and that is them. That is the energy field that they have around them. And we can actually push outside of that bubble the past and the future, because they're just thoughts. So we put them in boxes, and we close the boxes, and we can open these boxes whenever we like to go into little jewels and treasures of the past or dream about the future. But for our purposes, when we're up there, we enter between that space between those thoughts, which we get into through opening our senses, and that opens us up to, as I was saying earlier, to creativity. And what we call it is the garden of now, if you will. And what I get people to do with the exercises we do is to open all their senses and to be aware up there of the incredible landscape, skyscape of the birds zooming around, the flowers and butterflies and the scents and the tastes and the complete freedom that you feel up there, the tinglingness of the electricity up there. And that begins then to allow people to shed where they've come from and actually sort of involve themselves, absorb themselves into a new reality. And that's what creativity likes, because she wants to feed herself, she wants to give us stuff all the time. And it's up to us to take that gift and give it back to life, if you will. So it is a mental thing. And
there was actually a question that came in from our director Miriam just now, who was saying maybe a banal question, but do you think the mind can actually physically change through the practice of creativity?
It does. It does. Absolutely does. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. Yeah, sure. When we paint externally or write poetry, whatever, we actually make an internal voice at the same time. Yeah, we're distilling, our creative center. And yes, absolutely. It's not measurable. There's nothing you can clamp on someone's head and measure it with a dial going around. No. It's something that we feel within us. And
Absolutely.
that drives us on, because we want to share that with other people. And it just, as I said, it just enriches life. It enriches us, and it's us, our responsibility to give that enrichment to others. So,
Yeah, there was also a question that came in from Jacqueline Toon here asking, how do you deal with someone who's totally blocked, maybe even for years?
Totally blocked. Oh, I don't acknowledge the blocking at all. I just don't acknowledge it. I know where it comes from, and I know it comes from childhood, and it comes from someone's negative remark about what we're doing. It comes from the non-encouragement of children when they're creative. It comes from them deciding to live a rational life and listen to their teachers and obey them, because at the age of 7 they think, hey, hang on, we've got to be adults, we might as well just chuck it all in and be like them. And I do know through my daughter's unschooling teaching that she does, that to allow children to follow their own curiosity, allow them to follow their own curiosity, is a way of not there being a block in the first place. Okay, so when it comes to actually unblocking, just get on with it. Just get into your senses, just go into feeling and touching and smelling and talking, communicating. Don't let these silly thoughts come in, because they're a waste of time. These thoughts all just clattering through our heads all the time. Just a waste of energy. The very act of creativity itself takes us into a different realm. So, just get on start painting, get on start writing music, that takes you into a different realm. Look, this is last Wednesday. In fact, we have another day here tomorrow where people come in here, and it's beautiful. Everybody's absorbed into painting and making, and it's beautiful, complete absorption. And you have to say, like an hour's gone, and people have just got conscious of time.
Yes.
So
There was another question that just came in from Layla, who was asking, what have you learned from children regarding art?
Okay, I had to give a talk in Sweden a couple of years back, and this guy, this really famous psychologist, stood up and said, "The children are not creative. It's just nonsense." And I thought, hang on a minute. And I had to just challenge him. What are you talking about? No, they're talking creativity. Not at all. He didn't know children at all. So, you have to be a responsible adult who follows a child, okay? Follows a child. Don't tell it how to paint. Don't tell it, your mummy's got a bigger head than that sort of thing. Why is Daddy so small? Just allow a child to create. And if you just allow them, just don't even say this is a beautiful painting or whatever. Just go along with them, and they love it. They love it. But you go through anybody with a block, go back to them and ask them what happened. You can trace it back to a teacher or a parent or somebody who says something negative. And I can unwind that. I can undo that. I have exercises that take people through that, to actually sort of dissolve those things. But for children, having learned from them is innocence, just innocence. Except you be as a little child, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. That's what he meant. Unless you're innocent, and their lives are lives of childish. You're not going to get into any the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of creativity. Call it what you like, but you have to be innocent again. You have to learn your innocence, and you do it by play. That's one of the statements on my list of names. Einstein said the only way we ever learn is by play. Through play. And it's true. Children should be educated through play. You watch them and you follow them and you see that they take you in a beautiful, beautiful voyage. But if you start dictating to them what it is, what it's going to be like for them as an adult, and this is how I teach you to be an adult, forget it. Forget it. So we have to get back to our innocence. And my workshops do cover that. So if Layla, if you want to come to one of my workshops, I'll help you. But I know teaching children is art is something they can teach you. Watch them. They can teach us more than we can teach them.
Wonderful. Well, I'm afraid that we're just about out of time, so I apologize for the technical difficulties earlier.
Yeah,
but it's really been such a treat to have a glimpse into your studio and your teaching work. And it's really been wonderful to have our viewers as well joining us for today's broadcast.
Okay, no, it's a pleasure, real pleasure. Gosh, I've learned so much actually, just putting all this stuff together. It's like getting like a child going home and going through the chest in the attic and finding all these things that you've forgotten about. So it's been quite a real pleasure. And I thank Claudia for helping me too. She keeps on kicking me under the table.
Oh, yes. It's always good to have a good technical assistance on calls. So, yes.
I met him in the Sibillini workshop because I had the blog for years. And then in the nature, I don't know, it was amazing. And then, something happened to me and I started to paint from that moment. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like a wonderful experience. So, and thank you. And again, thank you so much to our viewers for joining us. And we hope you can all join us this same time next week, next Tuesday. And through the end of May, we'll be continuing this series exploring arts and education from different perspectives. So we hope you all can join us again next week. So take care. And thank you again, Michael. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.